Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back, everybody.
Please do subscribe both channels. We got one more day to go, and then we'll be out of the timeout box over on Evolutionary Energy Arts. And do have that little bell clicked. You never know, you might get a notification. EEARTS as well. Each one has unique videos talking about that September surprise and AI soul traps. Lots of interesting things always going on. Here we see you have the gun carriage that's going to place the Queen's coffin moved into Buckingham Palace as all the pomp and circumstance. Interesting too to just see people's reactions to this. More people have woken up, certainly over the past couple years, and more people are speaking out, and they're getting met in some cases with fierce resistance, with people telling them to shut up, even kind of, violence, which really violence is growing on the planet, unfortunately. And, the polarity is just getting more and more intense. I think it makes it hard for a lot of people to go along with what has been the pomp, the circumstance, the norm, as we wake up to the real reality on this planet, which shows itself in ugly ways. And this is also Buckingham Palace, and this was something that was called a hoax, but of course it's going to be called a hoax. And yeah, it looks like somebody's lost their drawers. It looks like somebody's tied sheets together and is trying to make a grand escape. Yeah, again, everything is coming out in the apocalypse.
Yeah, and sometimes it just doesn't look too savory, but we gotta look.
Oh, talk about unsavory. Here we go.
Some of my colleagues have been around long. How long we've been fighting for them? How long we've been taking on these interests? From the time I got to the Senate 720 years ago.
And he says it with a straight face. He does not skip a beat.
Yeah, and again, there's playing with the factor that you're old and everything, but then, there could be some realities there when we're talking about technologies and reincarnation, because on this channel, we go deep. And yes, some of those that were playing Nero in Atlantis, doing all sorts of things while Atlantis was, disintegrating into the sea. They're here right now, and they're heading the show again. They're doing what they do best, which is basically cause chaos, destruction, and in some cases even very, very much continents to just fall into the ocean.
They really should get some kind of an Emmy award here.
Yeah. Although now you're making me feel like I should have included one I didn't, which was it was a little meme that was showing a picture of Reagan and a picture of Zelensky saying the only two people that ever stood up successfully to Russia/Soviet Union were two actors. What does that tell you?
Right, it's true. Think about that.
Think about that, and think about this. And this is something we've been talking about. This is in Arizona. Now, we've been talking about the border and focused on the border primarily in Texas. These guys got camo on. Well, this lady's got camo on. And crossing the border in all that barbed wire, lowering down. Is she pregnant? I can't tell if she's pregnant or if she's maybe hiding something underneath. As you see, they're making their way. They're all dressed in camo, crossing the border. Some might say that's, a military-style infiltration. Look at that barbed wire on the fence, and it didn't do a dang thing. See? Just like a spider lowering off the web that it has created. Oh, yeah. 45-minute span. This is Nato, Arizona. We've been through this area as well. 500,000 gotaways so far this year. And we're talking Arizona. Their team saw a dozen illegal immigrants dressed in camo use a rope to scale the border wall and then run into Arizona. How many are waiting for that big day when they get the go sign? Now, of course, not everybody coming into the country, has a military operation ahead of them, but I bet you some do.
Yep, a few.
And this tweet is, I want to applaud every soul who silently and quietly said no in Bradley Stoke Tesco yesterday, who took the time to queue to be served and not forced to do the new self-serve. As you know, I mean, it's the same thing when I go into the store almost every single time. I can't even remember the last time somebody checked me out. I checked myself out every single time. Because usually you go into the store, no matter what time of the day, there's one or two people on the checkouts. And the rest is all automation. Look at all these people. Well, these people are waiting to actually be checked out by maybe the one person that's doing that. This is basically overloading the system and saying no to the automation, saying, we have to say no while we have a chance. The more we can push back, the better.
You know what these folks did is really very harrowing. And I got to say, a lot of people are at home thinking, well, what can I do? What can I do? I don't have, this, and I don't have that, and I don't have a bullhorn. But you do have yourself and your individual expression. Where you choose to express that is really, really, really significant. Especially now, we're at like such a precipice of change. And we need to remember who we are, what we can do. Our influence is so important. Please know that.
Absolutely. And, we're going to be touching on the inflation and, the cost of things. And part of all this is really about getting people to scrimp. All this is going to, for many people that don't understand the value of eating healthy, it's going to cause them to eat worse. Again, I mean, I've had friends that say, I can't afford, a good healthy lunch. I'm a dollar menu person. Dollar menu will bring you straight to the graveyard. You have to recognize that this is going to push people into skimping nutritionally. Well, what can we do? Well, just really look logically. You could still get, here in the U.S., you could still find, for about $59, a 25-pound bag of organic flour. And you could find things like spelt, which has more nutritious. You could find amaranth flour. You could find these things okay, so what did I made some bread. Well, I actually made them into kind of like rolls, little mini loaves, 2 cups of flour. And so basically it probably cost me $2 to make a loaf, actually multiple loaves. It would have been, probably 2 whole loaves, decent sized loaves of organic bread. It cost me about $2 to make that organic. How much does a loaf of organic bread cost now? $5 at least, $6-7. Think about that. So I do it myself, but I've gotten so used to doing it, it doesn't take me hardly any time. Not at all. I just mix the yeast in with the water. And, you need some sort of activating agent, like a little bit of sugar. There's other things you can use to get around the sugar. But again, it doesn't take hardly anything. I make my own tortillas, and that's just flour, water, salt, and a teeny bit of oil. And I like the way they come out. They come out tastier. And again, they cost pennies. Instead of, getting 8 tortillas that are organic for, $4 or $5, again, it cost me like $1, if that. Probably not even $1 to make the equivalent.
You know, and we are working on getting up a list of recipes because the food he cooks is so good, you guys. We got to share it in some way, shape, or form. And we were thinking about maybe put them on the website because it is super nutritious. It is so, so good for you. And it is cheap. It can be done. We just need to put in a little more effort. We got to look at the cost of what it is to not put in the effort. So if we continue down the road of eating foods that are bad for us, think of the doctor visits, think of the gas, think of the bills, you know, think of the insurance. All of that adds up as well. If we don't spend the money on this thing, then we're going to spend the money on that thing. So it's a matter of choose where you want to spend the money.
Absolutely. And we were out yesterday. We worked in the garden most of the day, and we actually did make a video, but honestly, I was too angered and irritated by everything happening in the world that I didn't want to burden you guys with a negative video because I thought it was too negative. Even though we touch on all these subjects all the time, I found that I was just so angry at everything that I'm watching going on that it's like, okay, that's just one big ass rant. And so I'm not going to burden you guys with a rant, even though I know we all want to rant when we see what's going on. So we were working out on the garden as we have to get ready now because our first frost will probably be the second week in November. We have to I have to get my butt going now on a greenhouse and still finish up new gutters and the porch and a bunch of other things too. So always a lot to go on, and now is really the time to get things done. And this is one of the things that's coming through. You got to get things done now. Anything that you need, you might as well get it now. You might as well, because it might not be available later. And again, there's so much we can do to eat healthy, and it'll cost you less than you're paying if you just learn a few things, like making bread, making soups, maybe based on lentils and beans and peas. We made a French split pea soup that Cindy kept saying to me, it's not peas. There's no peas in here. I don't like pea soup, and I like this.
It was not pea soup. It was really good, though.
So the biggest Fed rate hike in 40 years could be coming next week, a full percentage point increase. And, and we're going to touch on the housing issues too. Again, if you time things right, and this is what the ultra rich do, and those with insider information. If you have any questions about that, go ask Nancy Pelosi. She knows all about insider information trading. This is why they can make so much money in such a short time period. They know what to get rid of. They know what to get. Well, another dismal U.S. inflation report came in, and this is probably going to be the biggest hike in 40 years, if not ever. We're going back to the misery of the 70s. I do remember those gas lines, and many of you might remember the gas lines and the inflation and mortgages that are going to be up in the 7% interest rate. It's coming, and what's going to come is going to be in a housing crash that's going to make 2008 look like nothing. And so you have to have yourself positioned in the right way. If you bought a house in the last year in a very hot market, like say, Florida, a lot of people moved to Florida last year. The housing prices there are absolutely insane. A lot of people have also moved to Phoenix, and Phoenix has got serious inflation. Recognize that the prices are going to crash. And again, Vanguard knows this, and that's why they have so much money set aside. BlackRock, same thing. They got so much money set aside to gobble up all these houses that are going to end up being put back out in the market as foreclosures. This is so sad, so scary. Housing costs rose 0.7% in August, up 6.2% year over year, largest increase since 91. And inflation, is just going through the roof. And this is not going to ease anytime soon. Mortgage demand from home buyers falls 29%. That's why, I was just recommending to friends just a few months ago, if you're going to sell and you know you're going to sell, you got to get it done sooner than later. I understand that it's nice to have things done, in a certain order and to cover everything. But when it comes and it crashes, you could be sitting with a house that's half valued from what it was a little while ago. Just, 50%, maybe even less. I mean, we don't know how intense it's going to be this time.
No, we don't.
So application volume dropped 1.2% last week compared with the previous week. Since last year, home buyers' demand for mortgages has fallen by nearly 33%. That's huge. A third. That's huge. Germany weighs nationalizing Uniper to avert Lehman-like contagion. Oh, this is fascism. This is fascism when we see the state taking over companies, because, again, it makes me think of the banking crisis before. Too big to fail. Nationalize it. Too big to fail. Too big to fail. Yes, this is, again, a very, very bad sign. And when you think about what's going to happen when the government and, where your only choice is on where to buy things from, the government is controlling the monetary system, the banks, it's controlling your energy, and then it's going to be controlling your food and all your basic goods too. But in reality, the government's controlled by the corporations. The corporations and the government are one, and ultimately what you have is this elite class that controls everything. This is what is ultimately going to be going. So again, this absolutely disgusting symphony of destruction that's going on is just rolling down the road at such a fast pace right now. Phoenix inflation record 13%, and not all cities are alike. San Fran 5.7%, but part of that too is because people are leaving San Fran in droves. People are leaving California in droves where they can, as well as other states, and heading to other areas. These areas that have had a high influx, Texas too, of people coming in, like say Austin area and San Antonio, you're going to see more inflation in those areas. And then just to see how they try to spin it. Seriously, they think we're idiots. There's no other way to put it.
Month, we saw some welcome moderation in the price increases for food at the grocery store. It's moderating.
What do you mean moderating? It's moderating. They say something that is totally inaccurate, and yet, they expect and they do get a certain proportion of people that believe it because they said it, even when it's not accurate.
It's just a matter of getting people afraid, and they open themselves. They're accepting of so many things when they're in a state of fear, even if it's BS.
So here you see Germany's power grid faces collapse as millions stock up on inefficient electric heaters for the winter. Yeah, and there's a lot of inefficiency in this world, as I've seen the photos of the gas generators running so somebody could charge their car, and literally you're burning this. Come on, how stupid is this whole system? Well, the whole system is stupid if we look close enough, but unfortunately not enough people look close enough.
If we look at things, really all the information and all the energy we need is swirling around us constantly in a very, very natural form. We don't have to go out of our way to create things like gas and electricity. All of that's just, for the controllers to use to control.
And a leaked report shows a 47% increase in illegal migration to Germany so far this year. The same thing that's happening in the U.S. and our border is happening in these other NATO countries as well. And this is part of that bigger plan. This really does remind me of that Nostradamus prophecy where he talks about people mostly, he worded it such that they were of an Islamic persuasion, or many were, and they come in and basically burn certain cities down, and some cities twice, because they were laying the groundwork for the war that's coming, according to Nostradamus' prophecies and interpretations thereof. So Europe's natural gas shortage could trigger a food crisis. That's already well underway. And this gets into the fertilizer production again. I mean, this is so obvious. Food in the cupboards is like gold on your shelves.
Very, very true.
Yeah, I recognize it again, because the opportunity to get things is not going to be there in the future. It's going to be a mad scramble for many, many people.
And this guy here, he hasn't missed much.
No, he's probably a health minister somewhere. Yeah. Well, actually, no, this is a financial guy, and let's listen to him.
A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability, and also we will have the technology to enforce that.
Okay, listen to that again.
The CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability, and also we will have the technology to enforce that.
So when he's talking about that central bank digital currency and talking about liabilities, basically they will have to approve any purchase you make with your money, is what he's saying. And they'll be able to say, no, you can't buy that. Even though you might have 100,000 euros in your account and you want to buy a generator for 1,000 euros, they may say, no, you can't. Wait, I got 100 times that amount in my account. Sorry, nope. Because again, it's going back to that carbon credit score. You will not be able to just get whatever you want. You're not going to have the freedom with your own hard-earned money.
And COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. And COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance.
And that says it all in a nutshell. Yeah, it's all right there. Meanwhile, the violence in California is just insane. As you see, this article states the Golden State's losing its luster. A troubling new report labels physical and sexual violence in pandemic era California statewide epidemic. To put it simply, violence is on an alarming rise. And New York too. I mean, gosh, it's just it's beyond words. It's absolutely beyond words. The videos that you can see with people getting attacked. More than 1 in 6 Californians experienced either physical or sexual violence in the last year. 1 in 6 in the last year, and it's increasing. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. That's why the Escape from L.A., just again, an Escape from New York, right? Remember those 2 John Carpenter movies? Yeah, I mean, this is our reality right now. But there's other places too that are going through a very, very similar occurrence. It's very scary. This is why, again, if you could, it's a good idea to get out of the cities. And again, everybody has their own issues to go through and has to make their own decisions. It's up to each of us to weigh the pros and the cons. But absolutely, you're going to be subject not just to the chance that, greater chance at a violent occurrence in some of these cities, but also all the frequencies. And many people are finding that they can't stand the frequencies. We see this more and more all the time.
You know, it is going to be really important because a lot of people are in situations that they can't control. And that's so frustrating when they know that things are not good, but I can't step out of this space. That's when you really, really get good at your own frequency and making your own light very, very strong so that you will be able to go to that place when it's time. You're able to go out and do things that you want to do or get away from that area that you want to get away from.
Do you know it was 5 years ago with Oumuamua that came through that asteroid, they say, an intergalactic asteroid that made a very, very unusual sharp turn, utilizing the sun as a gravitational force, and took off. And there were people that said, this is not an asteroid. This is an alien ship. And then, of course, you know, the control group, the fact checkers say, no, that's an asteroid. That's not an alien ship. You know, 5 years ago, and still they're talking about it. And still there's scientists that say, you know, just like this one leading scientist willing to say what others may have only been thinking. Oumuamua's speed, course, and shape were possible signs it's an alien craft. Now, this is Avi Loeb, Harvard physicist. The possibility of artificial origin must be considered, right? And he wrote that in a 2021 study. When you look at what it did, it is exactly what we would think an interplanetary craft would do. And in fact, the study says that how it moves is it utilizes a solar sail. A solar sail, yes. Yeah, I mean, when you think about this, makes perfect sense. I mean, we've seen this in movies depicting how craft would behave. Come in, use this gravitational slingshot, takes off. Yeah, it's fascinating, is it not? And then when Cindy scanned it, absolutely that's a ship.
Oh my gosh, it's a ship. It's a very active ship. They're on a mission. They know they're on a mission. They're not afraid of it either. These beings are beings that are, it's safe to say they're warlike and they're very gung-ho. And I didn't like the vibe with them at all.
Yeah, and let's say that they are, they're more akin to perhaps alligators and crocodiles than they are to us. If you get what we're talking.
Yeah, lizard-like.
Yeah, these are very reptilian-orientated beings, and the shape of it, again, when we see the cigar-shaped UFOs, often those are the nasty ones. Those are the ones you need to beware. You don't swim with that bunch.
No, and you know, I just love how they put the picture and they make it look like this big, awkward-looking rock. You know, it's just silly, the picture they have up.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's part of the distortion that they are always giving us. So, again, you know, things are not as they appear. As always, guys, we want to thank you for your support on Patreon and also on Ko-Fi. Do check out Medicinal Foods. Use coupon code EEA. It does give you a discount. It does help support the channel. Stay prepared. Lots of things are hitting us. May you guys be blessed by the creator of this universe and all the benevolent ones. Namaste.
Namaste.